Este episodio de More Than Mamis es presentado por los nuevos McCrispy Strips de McDonald's.
Y no estamos hablando de cualquier pollo. Estos strips son crujientes, jugosos y tienen ese toquecito de pimienta que los hace irresistibles.
Y lo mejor es que viene con su propia salsa, la nueva Creamy Chili McCrispy Strip Dip.
Una cremita sazonada con ese balance justo entre dulce y picante. Literal, está hecha para el dipping.
Pero bueno, aquí viene la gran pregunta. ¿Hasta cuántas veces se puede hacer dipping antes de que te juzguen? ¿Una vez, doble, triple?
Cuádruple, depende si estás en confianza. Yo digo que no hay límite, especialmente si tienes a la mano salsas como la barbecue, honey mustard, la sweet and sour de McDonald's o incluso la mezcla que no falla, la mayo ketchup.
Bueno, en mi casa la llamamos salsa rosada, pero es una de mis favoritas. Yo soy team de mezclar cualquier salsa, la que más nos guste, pero sí quiero probar esta, la nueva Creamy Chili.
Así es, pruébelo y después nos cuentan los nuevos McCrispy Strips más la Creamy Chili McCrispy Strip Dip, pollo hecho para el dipping, solo en McDonald's.
Avoiding your unfinished home projects because you're not sure where to start? Thumbtack knows homes, so you don't have to. Don't know the difference between matte paint finish and satin? Or what that clunking sound from your dryer is? With Thumbtack, you don't have to be a home pro. You just have to hire one. You can hire top-rated pros, see price estimates, and read reviews, all on the app. Download today.
My name is Bianca, and I'm going to tell you about the strangest thing that has ever happened to me. Something that happened to me on the Mexico City Metro. On Line B, one night when I was returning home with my best friend after a party. We got on at Rio de los Remedios and were heading to Lagunilla Station, a journey of 2 stations if I'm not mistaken. Given the hour, we weren't surprised that there were few people, but it was very strange that at Bosque de Aragon Station, everyone in the car got off except for one person. It was odd because usually cars empty at large stations with connections. Also, we realized that the person who stayed, a man who had his back to us a few seats away, was talking to himself. He had been talking since we got on, but we assumed he was with someone, but no, he was really talking to himself. He wasn't carrying a phone or anything, not even headphones. He wore a dark brown suit, somewhat dirty and neglected, and a hat of the same color, made of the same fabric. He smelled of dampness. We decided to pay attention to him in case he did something strange, like touch the alarm in the car or something. And even though he hadn't even turned to look at us, there was something about him that put us on alert, as if our entire bodies were telling us we were in danger. At Oceania Station, people got on, but none in our car. Even a young man who was standing in front of our door, when it opened, walked away and went to another car. My friend nudged me to look at the man. He was scratching the back of his neck, but on his neck he had... I don't know how to say it. I know it's going to sound crazy, but on his neck he had scales, as if he had snake or lizard skin. He kept scratching, and a whitish powder came out as he scratched harder. They're watching me. Both of them have seen me now. They've noticed, but they're alone, he said. And it was obvious that he was talking about us. At the next station, Lagunilla, we were getting off, and when the doors opened, we were about to run to get away from him when he stood up almost with a jump. Without turning to look at us, with his back to us, he moved his hands backward, shaking them as if to show us that he wasn't carrying anything, and walking sideways with his hands behind him, without stopping moving them, without showing us even a moment of his face. He got off. We stayed inside. While he walked, he kept turning to always keep his back to us, until the metro moved forward and we left him there, and we were very scared thinking whether to call my mom or my friend's parents to come pick us up. But at the next station, something very strange happened. We arrived again at our station, at Lagunilla, where the strange man had gotten off. We didn't know what to think, but we decided to get off, although as soon as we did, we started to feel something strange, as if he were near. We ran out, and luckily, because God is great, at the exit we met a neighbor, a woman who takes care of us a lot, and to whom we told what had happened. I don't know if she believed us or not, but she calmed us down. And as we walked, she approached someone in a store. She seemed to know one of the guys who was there, and she just said to him, "Hey you, walk with us, come on." The guy obeyed, and the two of them accompanied us to my friend's house, where a while later, my mom came to pick me up. When I remember all this, it seems like a dream, but I know it was real. Completely real. Although I'm not even close to being able to explain what it was all about. The metro is a very strange place as a whole. It hides many secrets, stories that are very difficult to explain. Appearances of very strange characters that seem more out of a tale than a ghost story. Visions of spirits that seem to repeat over and over again the final moments of their life. Legends like that of the smiling woman who seems to appear more frequently by seasons and then hibernate again, without anyone being able to explain why. And something much closer, more important, which is the fact that most people who think about taking their own lives in this city decide to do it there, in the most violent, most terrible way possible. Today we are going to enter together, you and I, into the bowels of Mexico City, into the metro. We are going to learn about strange stories, some harder to believe than others, but all very bizarre. All with something terrifying, with something disturbing that makes them incredible and at the same time very, very possible. My name is Uriel Reyes, and you have a few more seconds to regret it, to leave here and go listen to something more relaxing. And if you decide to continue, I'm sorry. I cannot take responsibility if you are the next protagonist of Tales of the Night. The metro, perhaps because of the hour, was almost empty. Somewhat strange, but I didn't give it importance. I was able to sit down and took my headphones out of my backpack, as I find it relaxing to listen to music during the journey home. During the ride, the car stopped for a moment, and I realized that only a man and I were in it. I closed my eyes for a moment, for an instant. All I wanted was to get home to rest. When I opened them, I observed a girl selling lollipops and candies. I hadn't seen her before and she startled me. I said, "Girl, you scared me." And she only responded, "Will you buy a candy?" "I don't have change. Sorry," I replied. She insisted again, and I told her no again. Then she asked me, "Will you buy from me tomorrow?" Incredulous, I replied, "Yes, I'll buy from you tomorrow, girl." And she left. She was unkempt, dirty, and missing one small shoe. I noticed that she walked strangely. I thought that maybe she had a disability. My journey is usually quick, but this time it seemed eternal. The metro kept stopping more than usual. When we arrived at Refineria Station, the police announced that we had to get out, as a person had thrown themselves onto the tracks. I asked the policeman how long it would take to resolve the situation, since I had to get home, and he replied that there would be no more service because it was one of the last trains. He suggested I look for other transportation. Very annoyed, I went to sit on the stairs of the station to decide what to do. It was close to 11:45 at night, and at that hour there were no more buses that would take me home. While thinking about what to do, I saw the girl again, but this time far away. I also noticed that now she was dragging herself with her candy box down one of the corridors, going deeper into the station. I thought I had seen wrong, that I was tired, that I was having visions. But no. When I got up and took a couple of steps, I saw that it really was the same girl who minutes before had asked me to buy candies from her. I approached a policeman at the exit. I told him that there was a girl dragging herself, that she seemed hurt or needed help. He told me there was nobody. He said that if something like that had happened, they would have reported it to him. I thought he was one of those police officers who doesn't care about doing his job. So I went back to look for the girl myself. I saw her dragging herself at the end of a corridor, and as I approached, I asked her, "Hey girl, what happened to you? Can I help you?" She didn't respond, and something made me walk slowly. I felt that I didn't have to reach her. I got closer, and when I was just a few meters away, I saw her turned around in the corridor. For a moment, I could see her face. Her face was disfigured, as if there was nothing human left in it. I was paralyzed, not knowing what to do. After a few seconds and a couple of steps to peek into the corridor, there was no one there anymore. The girl was no longer there. The corridor was too long for the girl to have disappeared in such a short time. It was at that moment that I understood that what I had just seen was not something normal, not something real, and I simply ran out of the station. Confused by what I had seen, I wanted to call a relative to pick me up. I couldn't stop shaking or think clearly. I called an uncle, a cousin, my girlfriend. No one answered me. And besides, what was I going to tell them? That I saw a dead person. I don't know if it was the girl who died that night, but believe me, since then I return home in fear. I don't want to meet that girl again. That she asks me to fulfill my promise. With that girl, or with whatever it was. I send you many greetings, Uriel. This happened to me 5 years ago, in the worst moments of the pandemic, when the metro looked deserted on what before seemed like a normal day. I remember I took the metro at Tasqueña station. I had to transfer at Chabacano, to then reach Doctores station, a route I had made hundreds of times before without anything strange happening to me. Not even when I returned at night. When I got on, as always in those days, I noticed that the car was almost empty. A woman of about 50 years was sitting in the middle, and someone else a few seats away from her, at the opposite end of the car from where I was. But when we started moving, I felt a gaze. I don't know if you feel those things when someone looks at you very carefully, but I felt it. I looked up. The man who was at the other end of the car was looking at me very carefully, with eyes wide open. I don't know how to say the following, Uriel, community, but I swear to you it's true. That person, that man, was exactly like me. It was me, I swear to you. It was my face, my hair, my way of dressing. I could have even sworn that the backpack he was carrying was the same one I have now. He looked at me very bewildered, and then my eyes became as surprised as his, incredulous. I didn't know what to do, what to say. He looked more scared than I was, and as soon as we reached the next station, he ran out. I could see him closer when he did. He was identical to me, but a little bigger. Actually, maybe he looked like I look now, maybe a bit older. I don't understand if he was a ghost of something that hasn't happened yet. If I was a ghost to him. If at some point I'm going to see myself as a young person getting on at that same station and close this circle. But you know what's the strangest thing? What keeps me thinking a lot? He was also wearing an N95 mask, like those we all ended up using during the pandemic. That is, if this wasn't my imagination, if this is about a real vision of the near future, if for a moment I glimpsed into it, everything tells me that we have one more pandemic to live through. Soon. I hope to God not. Before continuing, please let us know what you think of these stories. What you think, how you would explain them. Share them with us. Believe me, we want to know them. Hello community, hello Uriel. I dare to convert this that happened to me less than a month ago, if anyone else in the community has experienced something similar in the Mexico City metro. I would like to know and also know what they did when encountering something like this. I don't know if you'll believe me, I've told this to my family and friends, but they only make me feel as if I were crazy. But I know it wasn't like that. About a month ago, I was traveling on the metro, exactly on line 3, which goes from Indios Verdes to Universidad. It was almost noon, and as many know at that hour the metro is practically empty. I boarded at Tlatelolco station, and the first thing I noticed was that on the other side of the tracks and almost in front of me, There was a woman with her back turned, simply looking at the wall. For some reason, I couldn't help but look at her. I wanted to look away, but it was as if my body wouldn't respond for a moment. When I managed to react, I found myself standing right at the edge of the platform, about to fall onto the tracks. I startled and took a step back. When I looked up again, the woman was no longer there. I searched for her with my eyes, I think trying to calm myself down, to confirm that she was there. And when I least expected it, I saw her again, out of the corner of my eye. She was behind me. The train was already arriving, and when I felt relieved, I heard a kind of squeak behind me. It was a strange sound like the one some dolls make when they're running low on battery. I tried to ignore it, and as soon as the train stopped in front of me, I got on quickly. Already seated, I looked out the window to look for that woman, and I saw her move away to the so-called tunnel of science. Fear suddenly invaded me. When it was all over, I felt my body freezing. I had trouble breathing and I couldn't stop shaking. I still had several stations to go to reach my destination, so I tried to calm down. When I finally arrived at Copilco, I smelled a very strong, terrible smell. It smelled like a stable. I don't know if I'm explaining myself, but I got that strong, earthy, unpleasant smell. I soon noticed where that smell was coming from another car she was getting off. The same woman. I ran towards the exit without looking back. I just wanted to get out of the metro, already on the street by the passage towards Copilco Avenue, because my grandmother lives nearby. I was walking very fast, almost running, when suddenly I felt that someone was coming behind me. For a moment I turned around, afraid of seeing her. And indeed, there she was. The same woman from the metro, about 10 meters away. On this occasion, for the first time, I managed to see her face, and I don't know if what I saw is real, if it was my imagination or my memories have been modified by what I heard later. But for a moment I thought I saw that she had the face of a dog. I ran like never before in my life, and behind me I heard the sound of something scratching the pavement and the unmistakable panting of a dog when it runs. I didn't want to turn around. I don't know at what point I lost sight of her. But when I arrived at my grandmother's house, all I did was stay all afternoon looking out the window, fearing that that woman would appear again. I never saw her again. But the fear that she will appear again, stayed with me forever. Hello, Uriel and community. I've been following the channel for a while, and I also usually read the stories they publish in the Facebook group. A few days ago, while doing a Tales of the Night marathon, I listened to several episodes about reality glitches and incidents in public transportation that made me remember something that happened to me a few months ago, and I finally got up the courage to share it with you. I'm from Mexico City and I use the metro frequently. Not only because it's a quick way to get to various places, but also because somehow I find a strange charm in traveling on it. To give you a bit of context, what happened to me was on a Sunday morning when I was returning home after spending the weekend with my fiancé. He lives near Acatitla Station on Line A. He's a dentist, and on Sundays he sees patients who can't come during the week. His office is in Ecatepec, while I live near Tacuba and Panteones stations on Line 2. To spend more time together, we use the metro on our journey. We go together, taking Line A from Acatitla to Pantitlan, where we transfer to Line 5 and arrive at Oceania. There we separate. He continues towards Ciudad Azteca, and I towards Buenavista, taking Line B. That Sunday we arrived earlier than usual to Acatitla Station, so we walked calmly. We went down to the platform, which was surprisingly full for a Sunday, and waited for the train. When it arrived, we boarded and positioned ourselves at the doors that don't open, so we could get off quickly at Pantitlan. Everything went normally until we reached Oceania. There, each of us took our respective route. My fiancé boarded first, and I stayed waiting a few minutes for my train to arrive. When it finally arrived, it was quite full, so I had to push a bit among the people to get on. We moved slowly, but at the next station some people got off, and I was able to find a seat. I put on my headphones, and as usual I played Tales of the Night on Spotify. During the next 2 stations, people continued to get off until only about 10 people were left in the car. By that time, we were already at San Lázaro, the last station where the metro goes outside before entering the tunnel. From there, it continues to Morelos, but to get there, the train must descend a slope and take a slight curve. As we moved forward, the lights of the car flickered 3 times as if they were going to burn out. I didn't give it much importance because it's something common, especially in old trains like that one of the blue ones with the number 400. When we arrived at Morelos, more people got off, and a girl got on who sat right in front of me. At that point, there were only 5 passengers left in the car. The doors closed and the metro moved forward. I continued doing my thing without paying too much attention to the others, although always aware of how many stations were left before getting off. From time to time, I looked over my glasses to better locate myself. At the next stop, the train stopped. I heard the door closing warning. I looked out the window to confirm that we had arrived at Garibaldi, but the station sign said Morelos. I was confused. I focused my gaze better, making sure I wasn't seeing wrong, and no. Indeed, the sign said Morelos. The girl who had gotten on at Morelos also noticed that error. She was just preparing to get off, but upon seeing the sign, she stayed in her seat with a bewildered expression. We exchanged nervous glances, but neither said anything. We just stayed still as if waiting for everything to sort itself out. The doors closed again and the metro continued moving. In the tunnel, the lights flickered again, but this time, something made me feel a sudden anxiety. I realized something even stranger. The scene around me looked as if with a sepia filter. The people seemed distorted. I thought it was my imagination. I took off my glasses, cleaned them, and put them back on. But no, the environment was still tinged with that sepia tone. The train continued moving. And when the light of the next station began to be seen, the first thing I did was look for the sign with the name. To my surprise and that of the girl, we arrived at Guerrero. As soon as the doors opened, she got off immediately, and before leaving, she looked at me as if she wanted to invite me to do the same. I, on the other hand, remained motionless. The other 2 people in the car also seemed bewildered. They looked in all directions as if they were trying to understand what was happening. And then, when the door closing warning sounded, 2 new passengers got on. Upon entering for an instant, I saw them pixelate. I don't know if it was a play of lights, if my mind was already playing a trick on me or what, but the feeling in the environment was dense, heavy. I got even more nervous and just wanted to reach Buena Vista, which is the terminal where I usually get off to take a bus towards my house. I got up and stood by the doors. I decided to get off at the next station, whatever it was. The train moved forward. When we arrived at the next stop, to my relief, it was Buena Vista. I left the car as quickly as I could and hurried to take my bus, already more relaxed. I sat down and tried to communicate with my fiancé. I had a strange feeling that something bad was about to happen. I sent him a message, but he didn't respond. I thought that maybe he was still in transit or just arriving at the office, so I didn't give that too much importance. Shortly before reaching my destination, I received a call from him. I answered, but all I heard was strong interference and a distorted voice. I called back right away. When I got off the bus, I started running. I didn't know why, but I felt very restless, as if something wasn't right. When I got home, my mom received me worried. She told me that she had been trying to communicate with me, but my phone had no signal. I looked at the time. It was 10 in the morning. That didn't make sense. Usually my journey takes an hour and a half, since that day we had left earlier. I should have arrived home before 8:30. But there were 2 missing hours, 2 lost hours. I don't know what happened that day. I only know that from time to time I find myself thinking, am I really in the right place today? Sorry for the lengthy account and thank you very much for reading me. Hello, Uriel. My name is Diana Eze. I'm from Mexico City, and this happened to me along with a cousin in the late 90s. We frequently went around the Fuente de Petróleos area. So we traveled by metro to Auditorio Station, as it was already a routine to go to this place. We knew the way very well. While traveling on the metro, we no longer paid attention to where we had to transfer or which side we had to exit. We did it almost unconsciously, almost mechanically. One day when we had to go there at about 4 in the afternoon, we arrived at the station and began to go up the escalators. We were so immersed in our conversation that we didn't pay attention to our surroundings. Later on reflection, we remembered that it looked quite empty. Something strange because that station is always very busy at any hour. Upon reaching the top, we noticed that everything looked strange, a bit noisy, as if they were doing some remodeling or construction. Where the turnstiles should be, there were only some boards obstructing the exit. It was there that we reacted and commented that because we were distracted, we had surely exited on the wrong side. Curiously, it seemed that this had only happened to us, as no one else was coming behind. In a corner, we saw an elderly man with a maintenance staff uniform, sweeping. He was with his back turned, and when we approached him, I asked him which way we could exit. His reaction completely disconcerted us. He turned immediately as if we had scared him, and when he looked at us, he opened his eyes and mouth in a strange way, as if he were seeing a ghost or something that had impressed him greatly. In fact, he couldn't even speak. He just raised his hand and pointed with his finger towards the stairs from which we had come up. At that, we had no choice but to walk quickly back as we went down. Neither of us said anything. Now we were completely silent and thoughtful. Upon reaching the platform, we tried to locate ourselves to see which side we were on, and noticed that now there were people going up the same stairs. We were surprised to see that people were going up without coming back because, theoretically, it was closed upstairs. Intrigued, I took my cousin by the hand and told her that we should go back. You can imagine how great our surprise was when we arrived upstairs and saw that now everything was normal. There was no construction of any kind. The turnstiles were in place and people were exiting without any problem. I only remember that we both looked at each other. We hugged each other scared, and somehow tried to convince ourselves that what we had experienced minutes before was real. We don't know exactly what happened, but I have discussed this with several people and I always receive many comments about it. Personally, I am left with the theory that we entered a kind of wormhole, which, according to some, allows time travel. In this case, we could suppose that we were transported to the decade of the 80s or something like that, when that metro station was being built. Because I imagine that's how it looked back then. On the other hand, regarding the maintenance man, I like to imagine that from his perspective we were the apparition. If we go with the idea that the metro construction is in process, theoretically, at that moment, no one should be in that place. Perhaps that's why his astonishment at seeing us apparently will never have a concrete answer for this. But it leaves me with many questions. Now I wonder if some of the so-called ghosts or spirits we see could actually be people trapped or lost in a parallel world, or on a momentary journey through time. Thank you very much for reading me. I hope to be able to hear my story on this extraordinary podcast that has become my favorite. Greetings. Have a very good night.